Hello and welcome everybody to part 2 of the end of season review for season 2025. Charlie, the grand final. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's up there with the absolute best in terms of contest and when it comes to individual performances.
Yeah.
Have we ever seen anything like it?
I don't think we have. I'm still recovering from it, Jimmy, in all honesty. Reece Walsh is just incredible. Like, he has the ability, I think, to be such a powerful force with fans that he can make the NRL the biggest sport in Australia. Like, that's how big he is. He's got the looks, he's got the character, but also he's got the ability as well. He's just such a good player.
Well, that's what it fundamentally matters the most is the ability. The ability to perform.
Yeah.
And he, in 2 of the 3 games, he's put in some of the best performances in the final series the Australian public will ever witness.
Overall, amazing final series. And we've previewed the bottom 9, so we're doing the top 8 today. Great to have the round table back as well, Jimmy.
Yes.
On fire with that. In my opinion, it's the best thing we do at the buy round. Obviously, this year we've got Matty Cameron from the Penrith Panthers, the CEO, part of that incredible run of winning all those premierships, and they're still... The window's not closing, guys, especially when you speak to someone like Matt Cameron and you hear his insights on the game. And then we've got Anthony Seabolt as the coach, Buzz Rofford as the journo, and you as the player/host. But you're doing a great job.
Oh, thanks, Charlie. I thoroughly enjoyed doing it too. It's the second favourite thing we do.
What's your first favourite? Midweek Matters?
The race.
Oh, the race. The race that stops the Rugby League Nation. That was good
Come
fun.
on, mate. That was...
Fantastic.
Scintillating
It
stuff.
was. We've got to start with the top 8. Obviously, from the bottom of the top 8, the Sydney Roosters. Now, a lot of hype going into finals. They sort of scraped their way into the top 8, but going into it, I think people thought they would do some damage. They ultimately got bundled out by the Sharks though in week 1.
Yeah, and most people, before a ball was kicked, viewed this very much as a rebuild year for the Sydney Roosters. A lot of experience and talent out the door. Jared Rea-Hargreaves, Luke Keary, Joseph Manu, Sualihi as well, Tupanua.
Yep.
Then they made the decision to part company with Terrell May. We knew that Sam Walker and Brandon Smith wouldn't be coming back into the side until the final third of the year. So a lot stacked against the Roosters to begin the season. Their first game where they concede 50 points. I think the knee-jerk reaction was, it could be a very, very tough, long year, and the prospect of playing finals looks slim. A lot of people were willing to put a line through them from round 1, but we saw this team grow together and advance together. Nafahu White has quickly established himself as one of the competition's premier front rowers. The return of Sam Walker was delayed with a training ground injury, and then the exit of Brandon Smith, for whatever reason, it's not worked out there. Obviously, a friend of the show, and he's got a couple of issues to deal with, and with the Roosters dealing with that off-field issue with the way that they have with superstar Victor Radley. But I think the Roosters can hold their head up high if that's a rebuild year. It's most clubs. There's a lot of clubs that would take that in their peak year.
Yeah, exactly.
To get into the 8 and to be in the amount of form that they had. Disappointing game against the Sharks in finals. I think there are elements of the Roosters' play that is quite high risk, high reward. But sometimes when they make errors, they compound them with more errors, and that completion rate is never going to get you over the line.
Yeah, they're just a different team when Sam Walker plays as well. So that started the year. You spoke about round 1, but it wasn't just that. They had 1 win from their first 5 games, and they just struggled. Wow. They just struggled at the start of the year. But then towards the back end of the year, they really started to click. They had that game against the Dolphins where their attack was unstoppable, and Spencer Leniu nearly had a punch on with, I can't remember who, Albrecht Taufa, I think it was, right, for the Dolphins. But it was a great end to the season. Storm, they put 40 on as well. Remember, they were down 10-0 at half time. it was a game where it seemed like Storm were flexing their premiership muscle, like they'd reached another level with their defence, and then out came the Roosters in the second half and just blew them off the park.
Yeah, that's their best performance of the year. To put 40 and 40 on the Storm was a big flex. But then, ultimately in finals, probably more reflective of their performances at the start of the season.
Yeah.
As opposed to the end.
Yeah.
And look, they'll take a lot from this year. They start next year with no victor for the first 10 games from memory. But
an over the top suspension for me, massively over the top. But anyway,
yeah, I'm with you on that. But Sam Walker being fit, and again, when you look at their season, the young halves of Hugo Savala, Sandon Smith, who's exiting to go to the Knights, but there was a lot of pressure on them because of the outside noise that came with Daly Chair Evans, and at release date it might be out in the public domain. But
November 1, it's going to get confirmed, apparently.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, does a player run down their options until the day before, and then just or the first day that they're available, they sign a new deal? You'd be naive. Maybe it'll be announced by then, but maybe that affected them maybe in a more positive way. I think Savala really stood up at times. In that finals game, probably not his best, but that's not enough of a reason to write him off.
That's something that annoyed me after the Roosters game was the chat that, they need DCE because of the way they played against the Sharks. So they just had an off night as a whole club.
Yes.
Like if DCE was in that game, I don't think it makes any difference to the result.
No. I'm with you, mate.
And that's what the big question mark will be next year is, have they made a mistake going and bringing in DCE? Because they're going to stunt the development of of Hugo Savala and Sam Walker. They are, because Sam Walker needs to be the general. That's who they see him as the future, the guy dominating the attack. But now they're going to hand the keys to DCE. It just seems like such a strange decision.
Yeah, and for such an elder statesman to move so early, a year is a long time in sport at the best of times. But obviously the aging warrior, the decline is significant. But yeah, the Roosters, I think, they would never admit this publicly about it being a rebuild year or a development year. But truthfully, I think that's what it was. And they over-exceeded expectations, in my opinion.
As that's the case, then what is your grade for them?
I'm gonna give them a B.
A B?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, well, again, they over-exceeded expectation.
Yeah, they just had the one of the greatest players of all time at fullback. They have
James
one of the best forward packs.
Yeah, but Charlie,
I
go
think
back to the
forward packs are an incredible team though. Like, look at their forward pack. They should be in the 8.
You're only saying that now.
No, I would have said that at the start of the year with like Spencer, Lindsay Collins, the back row of Angus Crichton, Siwa Wong, Victor Radley. I haven't even mentioned Nafahu White yet.
Yeah.
Nat Butcher, Egan Butcher, Connor Watson.
Yeah, but think of all the players that left.
Daniel Tupu, James Tedesco, Robert Toyer, Origin. Mark Nwangani-Tuasa.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we've not even spoken about
their roster's really good.
You know what, really, the story of the Roosters this year is the progression of Mark Nwangani-Tuasa. Maybe that even jumps James Tedesco having the year of his career.
Yeah.
I think it probably does because, again, what did we expect from Nwangani-Tuasa? Probably not much. Really, I mean, he played, 1 or 2 games in season 2024 and still... He didn't look comfortable in his first few games of NRL. Quite suspect under the high ball.
Still is to a degree as well.
Still is to a degree, but I mean, how he's taken on this challenge has been sensational. James Tedesco again. Yeah, they get a B, but I think go back to the start of the season and some of these players, and with no Sam Walker, with no Brandon Smith, I think. And even still some question marks around James Tedesco. Okay, we're all in love with him now, but let's not forget where we were at the beginning of the season.
B, I like it, Jimmy. Now I'm going to take you back to a different time of the year. The Penrith Panthers. They obviously ultimately finished in 7th, but I've just got my ladder here and I've just flicked it over to round 12. And guess who's sitting in last place? It's the Penrith Panthers. After winning 4 competitions in a row, after 12 rounds, they were sitting in last place. As the year goes on, they go on that incredible run, and they end up making the preliminary final. Like, for me, it's just a huge success this year for Penrith, even though they would have wanted to win the competition. With what they went through, with going to Las Vegas, coming back the fatigue, and I think it's been a great year for them.
Yeah, and losing Luai and probably more importantly James Fisher-Harris, they struggled, and I think sorry, I say more importantly James Fisher-Harris, maybe not, because Luai, who was known as the chief energy officer, brings a lot away from the football club. Like, I think his impact on the Tigers is more away from the field than actually what it's been on it. It's about connection and bringing that group together. They missed that. Blaise Talangi with a slower introduction, whether that was surgical, whether that was him just getting up to speed. There was some probably defensive issues there. So they took some time to adapt. In that run of defeats, they were actually playing just okay. They weren't poor, but they were just okay. And I think most people predicted there would be a slight decline, but not to the extent that would see them at the bottom of the ladder.
They're 14-0 up as well in that preliminary final. Like, if a bounce for ball goes one way, it goes another way. They easily win that game. They easily are in the grand final, and then they probably were going to be the favourites in against the Melbourne Storm.
Yeah, it's a game of fine margins, isn't it? They had some sustained pressure in that game against Brisbane, but you've got to give credit to Brisbane's goal line defence. There was times there where they were probably only one pass away from putting that game to bed, but it wasn't to be. They'll learn so much. It's interesting to hear Nathan Cleary say that this is a feeling he hasn't felt for such a long time, and around what they do with that feeling. But I think that the Panthers, when faced with adversity, the clock was ticking on them to make the 8. And look, when I was doing my calculations, and you know how I am about 13 wins get you into the finals, I'd put a loss in the column already before they went over to play New Zealand. So I was looking at it from, well, they've definitely lost that game. Now the pressure is on. I think it was something like they'd have to win maybe like 9 from 11 to get to that 13 wins. They shocked the NRL world when they went over there. Only Kurt Capewell missing for the Warriors, which was a huge...
Yeah. Panthers without all their origin stars.
No Cleary, no Yo, no Martin.
No Edwards. Like, how they got that victory. And that was the springboard, because that same team went to Newcastle and got annihilated by an origin-less Knights outfit, but still annihilated. And yeah, that was the springboard for their late surge. But ultimately, when you compare Penrith's season to the last 4, it's going to be disappointing for them. Yeah,
it really is. Like, this would really hurt. I use it. They are accustomed and they expect to win premierships.
First year not at Panthers Stadium as well. That hurt them a lot.
I think it did, Charlie. That home ground advantage that they have is worth something. It's a horrible place to go as a pro. The atmosphere there. Yeah, that Panther noise. But I think, in summary, a lot of people saying it's over. It's not. I still think Penrith, for the next minimum 3 years, would fancy themselves to pick up at least one more premiership. At least one more.
Those next 3 years is when Nathan Cleary signed. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So what have you got them as a season grade?
I'm going to go B again.
B, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go B.
Okay, interesting. The New Zealand Warriors now, they're a club that if we don't give them enough credit, or everyone in the comments hammers us, the most feisty fan base, I think, in the NRL, the New Zealand Warriors, the most passionate, the most biased, maybe even. You know, you get criticised being biased about the Bulldogs, we're Warriors fans. We did a finals week 2 review show, and we were criticised for not talking to Warriors. Newsflash, you got eliminated in finals week 1, guys. So we're not going to be talking about the finals week 2 review show.
Didn't talk about them in the grand final.
We didn't. That was a mistake. But their season, we're going to do their grade in a second, but the grade is probably going to be ACL. They lose their 2 best players to ACL injuries, and then everything turns. Like, especially got to feel for Luke Metcalf, who, when he went down with the ACL injury, was really in the mix for the Dally M.
Yeah, he was. When you lose your 7, considering the form that he was in, they just couldn't quite recover from that. A disappointing slide towards the back end, and I think they'll take pride in their performance and how they've captured the imagination of the nation of New Zealand yet again, and their home ground sellouts. But losing Metcalf, them losing Mitch Barnett, it was always going to be an uphill struggle. And that grading of ACL is right. It's hard to know how to grade the Warriors because probably beginning of the season didn't start well in Vegas.
Mate, Vegas was disastrous. We thought that, I was like, this team is going to be absolutely terrible. It seemed a broken culture. I think it just didn't suit their team very well. Didn't suit their playing group being Las Vegas. It wasn't a town for that playing group. The players seemed so bored, frustrated.
Even James Fisher-Harris, I remember him saying, "No, my debut is when I get back to New Zealand."
Right.
But, he wasn't about the Las Vegas, and I guess a lot of people not predicting much from Canberra or the Warriors, and then when the Raiders put on that performance, alarm bells were well and truly ringing.
Yeah. Overall, though, so many positives for them. Even the emergence of guys like Halasima, wow.
He should have got Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
I'm really firm on that I think he should have got Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. He's going to just give fans highlight moment after highlight moment. You think this year he had 2 of the best moments all year. The first was early in the season when they were at Campbelltown Stadium against the West Tigers, where for some reason Laka Halasima was on the wing. But he just ran the whole length of the field, basically stepped inside the fullback, scored an amazing try, and then that was a match winner, and then another match winner later in the year against the Newcastle Knights as well.
Oh, just incredible scenes from a 19-year-old. Like, he's a teenager.
Mm.
Like, I know we're going to talk about Reece Walsh and his superstardom, but Halasima, what he can do, I don't know if he can be the Reece Walsh of New Zealand, but he won't be far behind.
No, and he signed long-term, Jimmy. So he signed there until end of 2019. So
2019.
2029. 2029, yeah.
That is
huge for them.
Intelligent stuff from the Warriors.
So they re-signed him late May this year. He was already signed till end of 2027, but they said, "Nah, we got to get this guy locked in."
I think they might have to upgrade and extend again
during that deal.
Yeah, definitely.
Andrew Webster has got a lot of claims to be one of the best coaches in the game as well.
Yeah, definitely.
What he's doing with that side,
and what they're tapping into is great.
The other thing that they probably just need to get sorted is those other spine positions. So they've got Wade Egan at hooker, and they've got Sam Healy as their 14 now. That position sorted. But then in the halves, you've got Luke Metcalf at halfback, but who's the best 5'8" to go alongside him? And who's their best fullback? Because we saw Shans play there. We saw Tane Tuapiki, who I think is a really exciting player. And then also Roger Tuivasa-Sheck's an option as well, although we expect him to go to Rugby 360.
Yeah, look, I'm of the firm belief that Roger is the best fullback, but he's third choice according to Coach Webster. And look, he knows the situation better than anybody. But I've seen Roger come into games and into contests and change it from the wing position. And I guess as an observer, you sort of predict how much more influence the that Roger Tuivasa-Sheck could have on a game of football if he was in the position of fullback, considering the space and the opportunities that would be presented to them. But Webster has fundamentally shut that all down, and even if Chance is not playing, they'll bring in Tane Tuapiki. So, but I guess as an observer, it still seems strange.
What would your grade be for the Warriors?
AC.
AC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, in the middle is obviously B, but with the Roosters and Penrith getting 2 Bs.
Yeah.
I don't know whether to change the Roosters to a C.
I think you're overrating the Roosters massively. I think the Roosters, giving them a B is crazy. I don't know. Their roster is so good. I think they lost a lot of players, but their roster is still incredible. I think most teams would expect to make the 8 with that forward pack. Are we changing the Roosters to a C?
Yeah, go on then.
All right. The Cronulla Sharks, Jimmy. The Cronulla Sharks, another year where they've made a prelim final, which I don't think many people expected once finals begun, but they just found some form late in the year. They were really strong to finish the year. They seemed to find some defensive resilience. Ultimately, though, they've got the same level as last year. It's a preliminary final.
Yeah, and the Sharks really did dial into that mentality of it that it's us against the world in finals. However, they missed the top 4 on points difference. And I think that, knowing what we know about the importance of top 4, that is something that they should have achieved. And you go back to that origin period where the criticism of the Sharks is they don't have that ingredient of origin players. Yes, they've had Nico Hines, who's played origin. Yes, they've got Cam McInnes, who's played origin. Yes, they've got Adam Fanua-Blake, who is one of the best front rowers in the competition. Certainly I would have him as the third best middle front rower in the comp. They've got Britton Nickera, Cale Iro, who's going to be going on to some good things. Trindle, who is fantastic there at 5'8", but really that origin period they should be max collecting. Collect all the points available to them.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that they missed out on top 4 because of points differential. Like how different this competition could have been in the finals, because the team they lost out on points differential was the Brisbane Broncos. And they were the Cronulla Sharks at Suncorp were up 28 points to 12 in round 16 against the Broncos. And the Broncos came back and ended up winning that game 34-28. If they hang on and win that, they're in the top 4. The Broncos aren't. It could be completely different finals.
Yeah, it would be a completely different story indeed. But the Sharks, I think, they saved their best for last, and they had some. They were awesome against the Roosters, how they fought, and then brilliant against Canberra. I thought they played really well against the Melbourne Storm as well. They just came up a little bit too short, and perhaps when you examine that particular performance, isolate that performance where the sharpshooter in the halves compared to Munster and Hughes was really telling. I think in Blake Brayley, they've got one of the best dummy halves in the competition, not far behind. Sorry, there's some space there between him and Grant, but he's in the jostle with your likes of your Robsons, your Cheeses, and a few others there, the Mitch Kennys of the world, to make a claim for that second best dummy half. Brayley's been a real shining light for them.
Made the Kangaroo squad as well, which is awesome for him.
Yeah, congratulations to Blake Brayley on that achievement. I think the way the balance of the Sharks roster, it needs some examination, and I think we maybe see some movement in the off-season, especially with their middle forwards.
With their spine as well, Will Kennedy, at time of recording, still not signed for next year, so still without a contract. So, I mean, you look at that side and they don't have an obvious replacement there at fullback if they don't manage to keep him. The talk is they're going to re-sign Will Kennedy on a one-year deal around $350,000 a year, and then he may very well end up going to Perth the year after that.
Yeah, that's the chat. I wonder what their depth is like in the halves, or even
if Atkinson goes now to the Dragons,
or even look, I know Coach Fitzgibbon was adamant, but I think a look at Nico into the fullback position is something that would be impossible to just completely blank out and ignore. I think it's worth an investigation from Coach Fitzgibbon to go, okay, do we move Nico to the back if we allow Will Kennedy to go?
Yeah.
Like, is there something in that?
I like that.
Like it, I think it's worth an experiment in the off season.
Yeah.
But then you solve one problem, you create another. Could they be one of the sides that go after Jonah Pezzett? They probably don't have the cap space as it stands. But that said, like I say, that their middle forwards, just by mathematics, won't allow for all of them to play, and certainly not all of them to be satisfied with their ability to contribute in terms of minutes on the field.
Because they've got Fanua Blake, who will get to his impact on the season, on the team in a sec. Obviously, end up with Dally M front row of the year. But then you got Hazelton, Hammond-Uele, Kafusi, McInnes,
Rudolph,
Colhoun, who looks like a really good player. Like,
you just can't.
You need to lose, what, 2 of them,
I think they could afford to lose 2.
Yeah. And then put the money in other positions.
And yeah, I think that's what they've really probably got to do.
And is that more their spine? Because they've got strike outside backs. It's more like, I know you look at the stats of the attacking stats of Trindle and Hines, and they're actually really impressive. But it's just the eye test, isn't it?
Yeah, it is the eye test. And you know what? I've seen those stats, and they do shock you. And what it says is they're going okay and ignore these calls. But I think to get them to the next level, to get them to be a top 4 side, for them to be landing knockout blows when it comes to beating genuine Premiership contenders in September, that they probably need just this star outside back. Obviously, Ronaldo, he's been amazing, but a really star, classy outside back, whatever position, to complement the likes of Fanua Blake, who has done exactly what Cronulla bought him over for.
Yeah. The Sharks currently are $19 to win the comp next year. I think that could be one of the best bets if you want a bit of value. Like, they've been building and building and building. You would assume that they'll make another leap next year. Like, that's the trajectory they're on, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. If they can match the intensity of finals throughout the year, but they've always struggled. Like, they lost that game against a patched up Roosters side.
Yeah.
During Origin. Like, you spoke about the Brisbane game they let slide. Like, that's the game they let slide.
Yeah, true.
That's the sliding doors moment of their year. That's the big what if. That's the review of where did it all go wrong? Like, why didn't we make the top 4? You can just put it all in that game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and really, that game, when you play against sides like that are so decimated, you've got to anticipate. You can't just go, oh, there's no Crichton, there's no, there's no Toya, there's no Lindsay Collins. You got to go, these guys are going to come in, and one thing that they can do is out-enthuse you. They can't outperform, they can't outcompete. They can't, like, their capacity isn't greater than ours. They can't outskill us, but they can out-enthuse us. And I think when you look back, the Sharks were out-enthused that day. And then you compare that to the game at Shark Park against Melbourne. They out-enthused the Melbourne Storm that day.
Yeah.
But how do you bring that into how does that become the default? So I think figuring out how that becomes the default, and maybe looking for some market movers. We will see some players become available. Can they land that? Can it be a destination? Well, they need to move some players on to free up some space.
You talk about that review. Did the players get together and actually discuss stuff like that with the team and discuss key losses and things like that? Or is it very much just a something that the coaches look at?
Every player would have an individual review, and probably the senior leadership group, I imagine, would be part of a
deeper dive.
Yeah, a deeper dive as a group. Okay, let's get our thoughts. Because I think that the coaches would know that there's some smart people in the room, and players would have a feeling and understanding, and also they have when it becomes something other than X's and O's, the players have a greater understanding of, well, what was the chat like that week? What was the mentality?
Yeah.
What was the issue? Did we overcook it? Did we undercook it? Like what was going on there? And they'll be able to have those conversations with Coach Fitzgibbon about like why that week in particular went wrong.
Fanua Blake, goodbye for the Sharks though.
Yeah, I think so, Charlie. Yeah. I think he's just rinse and repeat what he's done for the past couple of seasons, and one of the major benefactors has been Brayley.
Yep. What are you grading there?
Man, I hate to like basically every team so far has been
a B. I think a B plus maybe for the Sharks.
Oh, would do B.
You're allowed to do a plus, minus,
B,
whatever.
Yeah, B plus. Yeah.
B plus. They're not an A, but they did well, mate. They did well in finals, didn't they?
They did.
Now the Premiers, the Brisbane Broncos, 4th on the ladder. Incredible season, really. Like from where they came from, where they were at. I remember we were in Melbourne for the game where Mam and Reynolds popped their hammy on the same play, and everyone just assumed their season was done. Then they drifted out to, I think, $23 on Ladbrokes after that game. Everyone just thought, that's it, they're done. So much fight and so much of these comeback wins. Like, I don't know how they do it. Time after time, coming from behind, from double-digit deficits during finals against the best teams in the competition. So impressive.
Yeah, congratulations to the Brisbane Broncos. Yeah, the 2025 Premiers. Looking back at their year, started like an absolute house on fire against the Roosters. And then to be fair, they did bumble around. They were, Madge's first assignment as coach was how to deal with the fallout from Ezra Mam. I don't know how much of a say he would have had in that suspension. They bring in Benny Hunt.
13 rounds in, mate, they were 5 wins, 7 losses, and the bye, and they were sitting in 11th place.
Yeah.
How strange is that after 13 rounds, you normally get a good understanding of where the comp's at. We had the Broncos in 11th and the Panthers in 14th.
Yeah.
And the Eels in 16th, who end up going on a big run to end the year as well. Like, bizarre.
But you know what, Charlie, right? People and maybe even Broncos players and fans will be, I'll get that into your media, people, but that we react in the moment. A lot of the time we don't see big picture. Or maybe we do. I'm love my Premier League. Liverpool, they come in second. They won their first 5 games. They've had a couple of losses, and people are the balance of this team's all wrong.
Yeah,
it's like, we're 5 games in. Oh, this is championship quality stuff. This is what real champions do. They get late winners. 2 more games. Oh no, I think they got the balance wrong there. Slot. It's been coming this. And then
they bought the wrong players.
Yeah. Like why would
Jamie Carragher's blasting them on Sky Sport.
Like he's an ex-player. You go, well, and by the time this comes out, they might be back.
Yeah,
even Arsenal, Arteta come in for criticism. You've got to go and win.
Yeah.
Against you got to aim to win against City and Liverpool, and get to draw. It's not good enough.
Not good enough. No. Even mate, Ange Postecoglou's been managing Tottenham Hotspur for 15 minutes, and they're calling for him to be sacked already.
Notts Forest, yeah. He has a bit of a shocker, to be fair.
But they were struggling, Nottingham Forest.
Mate, they were basically in the top 4 last year.
No, I know, but then they started slow this year, sacked their coach, and he's only coached 2 games, and the fans were singing you getting sacked in the morning to their own coach.
Yeah, sport has become that way inclined, but just on the Broncos, to stay true to themselves, I think it's widely reported now that there was an approach from some of the senior players, Reynolds and Hunt, about Maguire just dialing down the level of intensity, especially during the video sessions. And I think Maguire hired the
his crisis management man, Grant Williams.
Yeah,
how much are we going to look into that?
But you know what, Charlie? These are the things that people will look and examine and dine out on and make a living off. It's fundamentally, if Katoa shows and goes, the crisis manager is not a story, but it is.
And if Pappenhausen is a metre or further away from Katoa, Reece Walsh can't tackle him, and he scores under the post. If Ryan Pappenhausen just passes the ball back inside to Will Warbrick, if Ryan Pappenhausen maybe just backs himself, he might have got there.
Nah, he wouldn't have got there.
He might have slid over.
Yeah, maybe.
Like he might have.
Maybe.
Like he was not far away.
But I think you've got to give credit where credit's due. I think the advancement of Shibasaki, Mariner, Karapani, Shibasaki, with a lot of people when he got that Origin call up, and then he's had a few drinks with some Dolphins players, and then he was stood down for that game. That's pressure decision making.
Yeah,
and you got to say Madge got it right in the end.
100%, he got it right. And everyone was saying don't bring him back in because they had a good performance when Shibasaki was out. It was the same with Adam Reynolds. Like, do they bring him back in, and then he puts the try assist on in the Penrith game to start the Broncos getting back into it, and then slots the conversion as well. Like Reece Walsh will get all the plaudits, but Adam Reynolds was probably the man for them in that prelim final.
In the prelim, in the prelim, I'd agree with that. Coming back into the side like he did, and then you look at the Marty Tapa'u liking a post. Like I think that says that there clearly was some issues there. Yeah. During that middle season,
and maybe Marty was not an energy they needed around the club as well. Like that's Madge has identified that and gone, what we're building, we don't want a guy like him here anymore.
Because whose post was it that he? Was it something? It was someone basically, accusing Maguire of working the team too.
Yeah, and he liked it.
It was, one of the Souths or Tigers boys, maybe.
I can't remember, mate, but it doesn't matter too much. But
again, like to get to make like a bit of a line in the sand moment, like you said, about we don't need that energy in here. Like if you think it's too hard, then pack your bags.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and they needed people who were on the bus to take Ivan Cleary's quote.
And people compare. Okay, well, Ezra Mam did what he did. Marty Tapau, very, very, like, harsh. Well, people would say, you compare the two, but there's differences between like a legal matter and then something internal like that. I can see why, some fans would be going, well, that's not fair. But I can see why Maguire has gone, well, I don't want, and maybe some of the senior players, like, if that's what you're thinking, mate, that's going to filter through. Like it takes so much that goes in to be successful for any sporting side, and it only takes one person to ruin it.
Yeah. The other sort of key things is Ben Hunt. I think we've got to give him a lot of credit. Obviously left the Dragons to go chase premiership and chase the premiership. That's why he's gone there, and huge success for him. He obviously played with him for years.
Yeah, look, I was, a teammate of mine. I considered him a friend, and obviously wanted to get back home to Brisbane. I was, thinking from a club point of view with the Dragons, saying like, well, you can't just because a player wants to go, you can't just let them go. You've got to win. You've got to come out of this with some advantage as well. And I eventually he got his wish, and congratulations to him. Like it would have been an amazing career without this premiership win, with everything that he's done for Origin and Australia. Took his sides to grand finals, played over 300 games or 350 maybe now. And the redemption story for the heartbreak that he would have gone through. The talk of Alfie Langer getting on the bus and saying, don't catch this Benny, chucking him a beer and just trying to get over it that way. And then even seeing that Brisbane side go there in 23 and thinking, I should have stayed. I could have, But quite the story, and congratulations to him.
Some demons vanquished for Adam Reynolds also. Like his legacy looks very different if it's one premiership win and 3 grand final losses as opposed to 2 premiership wins, 2 grand final losses.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah. For Reynolds, that was huge. That's why he went to Brisbane. And so agonisingly close in 23. That's why he went there.
Yeah,
and he's got exactly what he went to do.
We spoke about this in the last podcast though. But for South Sydney, what a mistake!
Huge mistake.
What a mistake!
Huge mistake.
What's their grade, Jimmy?
Oh, man, you've got to give them an A.
An A, of course.
We'll look back at their season, say what we've got to say, but they played their best when it absolutely mattered.
Yeah.
They played their best when it mattered, and they got themselves with that top 4 opportunity and then put 3 incredible performances. I thought before a ball was kicked, if you beat Penrith, you're going to win it. And I thought Penrith would be favourites. I thought if anyone beats them, it will be in the grand final. Arguably the greatest achievement of the Broncos is the ability, or their ability, from that Sunday game in Brisbane at home, defeat the Penrith Panthers, to have 7 days to recharge and go again. Like they did something that no team has done for 5 years. Like,
yeah, and from 14-0 down, like at half time, and then they knock the ball on that first set in the second half as well. The Broncos, you just think Penrith's going to run away with it.
Like they hung tough in that game.
Yeah,
they hung tough and they backed it up, and they were hanging tough in that grand final on the Sunday. They were hanging tough at moments. The desperation from Reece Walsh on Kamikamica.
Yeah, they ended up with one player on the bench at the end because they had Hunt off. They had Karapani, who was in the HA. I don't know if he ended up failing or passing it, but he was in the HA. And then they also had, obviously, Reynolds with the calf. Like, one player on the bench and just still showing so much energy.
Yeah, it was... Maguire will back his methods.
Are they... and he said as much as well, because he was asked on Channel 9 by Cam Smith about the criticism about him training too hard, and Maguire just responded with blah, 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 blah. That's what I think of it.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and he's right to say that.
Are they in a window now, then, for next few years?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Obviously, Reynolds and Ben Hunt, probably their last year next year, but then that gives them extra motivation. They've exercised the demons. I think we'll see, Ezra Mam, he'll get a full season. Reece Walsh will just get bigger and better, you imagine. The likes of Shibasaki will remove the doubt of, do I belong here? Because I imagine there probably was a little bit of that. He may get a test jersey as well to cap that off.
He is in the Kangaroo squad.
He's in the Kangaroo squad. But whether he gets a start or not remains to be seen. But I think the Broncos now, they'll fancy themselves to, I don't know if I'm going to say rival Penrith for what they've done the past 4 seasons, but Sunday's grand final was a big step to realizing they're in a window. I think if they lose that game, there's a lot of head scratching, a lot of soul searching, like there will be for the Melbourne Storm. But the Broncos now will feel confident about going into a window and look, breaking the history. 19 years of hurt there, and the likes of Dave Donaghy now needs to start that succession plan for Reynolds, for Hunt, and make sure he capitalises on what's in front of them, because in Walsh, in Staggs, in Haas, in Carrigan, they've got the nucleus there to do something great for a sustained period of time. They've
got a really talented young half there, Kobe Black, who they've got huge raps on, and I think he's probably going to be the guy to take over from Adam Reynolds down the track. Amazing year for them. Working our way up the ladder, Jimmy, your Canterbury-Bankstown Bulldogs. Now, this is probably going to be the juiciest one, I'd say,
you reckon,
of all of the season review, because, it's been the story that's dominated all year. Sexton, Galvin. Obviously, the Dogs, after 16 rounds, 11 wins, 2 losses, 3 byes. They're flying. They're at the top of the ladder. They've beaten the Raiders in Canberra, come from behind, win against the best team in the comp at that point. It was all looking so good, and then Lockie Galvin showed up, and things seemed to turn.
It from the outside, it was looking good. I think there was still some deficiencies in that team, in that squad, and an opportunity presented itself to sign one of the best young talents in the NRL, and that then therefore creates an issue in, okay, does he come in straight away? How do we get him into the squad? Maybe upset the chemistry. But I think ultimately the criticism was over the top and it was harsh. Like, Galvin is one player. He takes up one position. And what I didn't like, Charlie, is how it's like it's not Sexton. Galvin takes over from Sexton fundamentally. Eventually, he didn't take over from Reid Marnie. That was the decision to bring Bailey Hayward into the team. But I felt as if all that got put on the shoulders of Lachie Galvin. And yes, it was a risk. Short term, did it pay off? No. Long term, will it pay off? I think yes. I really do firmly believe that. Again, if I look at the game that the Dogs played in finals, like what they were lacking, it was probably a bigger middle forward, which is where they come unstuck with. They've addressed that issue with Leo Thompson. He still needs to perform when he comes to the football club, but I think that was probably a bit of an issue. We saw Tupanua, who played in the centres only 12 months ago for the Sydney Roosters, come on and dominate in the middle and look really good. But I think Max King had exerted himself. He put so much into that season. He probably just needed a fraction bit of help. And he was getting it from the likes of Hughes and Curran, but a genuine bigger body, I feel would have made so much different. But people will point to Lachie Galvin, and I understand that. Maybe the Bulldogs underestimated just how big this story was going to be. And I know as a player, they'll say, we don't read the media. We're not interested. And you should aim to block out the noise. But it was impossible to ignore.
Shaking up half your spine there sitting first is kind of strange.
But the fact that it all got pinned on Galvin.
Yeah, I don't think it all got pinned on Galvin. I think Gus has copped a lot of criticism for it as well, and Cameron Serrato as well. And I don't know. I think it just was strange. Like going into round 17, they've got they're going up against the Penrith Panthers. And then it was just bizarre. They brought Galvin on and then shifted Sexton to hooker.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seemed like such a strange thing. When I get wanting to bring Galvin in, and Galvin, like you say, in that game against Penrith in the finals week 2, he was only one offering anything in attack.
Yeah,
almost.
He was the Dogs' best that day.
Yeah, so he's obviously a very talented player. But I mean, for this year, and especially with the way finals has worked out, would they have been better off just get Galvin in? But why can't you just keep him in New South Wales Cup? I mean, he's only 18 years old, 19 years old. Like, what's wrong with doing that?
Maybe you're saying then, if you do that, you're saying that Sexton's better.
But Sexton's better for us right now because we've got the combination going and we're going well.
Mm. No, I get that.
Or even, mate, let Sexton fall on his sword if you think Galvin's better. Like, because Gus came out and said, oh, yeah, our schedule's going to be really tough over the next few weeks. We were overinflated. We'd had lots of buys early on and we'd had a softer draw, which is all correct. So then why don't you let things go wrong with Sexton then to prove a point? So then you can bring Galvin in and it makes more sense. They kind of changed it just when things were flying, which was odd.
Look, I get that observation, but also I've said this before that, like, for me, Gus Gould, Cam Serraldo have the runs on the board. I mentioned Warriors coach Andrew Webster. Oh, look, observation, that looks strange. He stuck to his guns. Coach Fitzgibbon stuck to his guns, didn't put Nico Hines back despite the public calling for this experiment to happen. And sometimes in clubland, you do stick to your guns. And it's not about proving anybody wrong or... Like, and I've said this before, I have a strong opinion on things, but a loose grip on it. Like, I'm happy to have my mind change. I totally understand the idea around leaving Sexton in the side. But on the same token, with all due respect to Toby Sexton, who I think is a magnificent footballer, he's been through so much with his time at the Titans, coming to the Dogs, being behind Drew Hutchison, calls for him to be in the team and ahead of Drew Hutchison. They didn't make that move until around about halfway through season 2024. But with Sexton, he was off contract all season. and no other NRL club came in.
A lot of teams have halves, don't they? The only team that is the St. George Illawarra Dragons, where you're like, oh, who's their halfback? But then most other teams have their halfback position sorted.
They do, but nobody saw that as a more
like an upgrade.
Yeah. And even with the Dragons, who, to be fair, entered the market into the half for a halfback at the beginning of the year. They've looked at it and they've got Atkinson and Sexton on the table. And they table a bid for Atkinson.
Yeah, I think Atkinson was signed at the start of the year, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, but
prior to Sexton
would have been available.
Would have been available. Yep, you're right. You're right.
He was off contract all year.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, and that's not a knock on him. And then Sexton, when he came back in that Melbourne game, he came on like first class. I think he'll go over to Catalans, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him back in the NRL.
Because Sexton's a fantastic player. Like, even the finals week 1, he comes off the bench. It's like with
that game against the Storm, he was unbelievable. That helped people lead into the argument of he should be the 7.
They were close. The Doggies. They were close. What are you grading their year?
Look, just on the Dogs as well.
Yeah,
I still feel that they are overachieving based off Cam Serraldo's introduction. First year, I think last year caught most by surprise, especially the start. They finished really well. This year, they started strongly and probably faded away a little bit. Maybe there's some examinations there on the process and the training and the intensity. I want to give them a C+.
A C+.
Yeah. Top 4, that would have been the aim at the start, but then to go loss, I think, yeah. Probably C+.
On Ladbrokes currently, Jimmy, they are the 4th favourites at $9 for next year.
Yeah. I think that's probably fair.
So they should be competing there next year for a title.
I think I've said this before. This year would have been a bonus.
Yeah.
Next year, if everybody's fit and the stars align, no reason why they can't go for the title.
2 teams to go then in the season review, Jimmy. The Melbourne Storm, grand finalists, back-to-back grand finalists, back-to-back disappointment. A strange year for the Melbourne Storm. Coming into the season, they were considered by many as the clear premiership favourites. They were the only ones of the big dogs who had gotten better as a roster. Stefano Utoikamanu had come in. They had so many injuries through the year, and it felt like they were going to get to a different level than everyone else, but they just never found it.
Yeah, we kept waiting, didn't we, for them to go and just put the afterburners on. There was some halves of football that they played at Amy Park on Sunday afternoons that not many teams would have the ability to stop. But it was just a bumbly old season from the Melbourne. Sorry, I shouldn't know. That's a bit harsh. I think, you think they just look comfortable at times, and you think to that loss to the Dragons in the wet, lost to Manly at home. They lost on Coach Bellamy's
pumped by the Roosters
milestone game, conceding 40 points. But you're right, at the start of the season, they were the best team on paper by a country mile. Like you say, the only really side to improve on paper with the significant signing of Stefano Utoikamanu, and with best in position players in the most important position, or 2 of the most important positions in their 9 and their 6 in Grant and Munster. They'll be reeling from that grand final defeat. I know we'll talk about the brilliance of Walsh and the Broncos and all that, but internally that the Storm are filthy. They let that one slip.
I really feel for Harry Grant, and because him post game, he was incredible. His speech was one of the best losing speeches I've heard in the NRL. It's his 2nd grand finalist in a row, and he had a milestone game this year. And he was asked a question about the successes of the Melbourne Storm and how grateful he's been to be in such a successful club. His response was, I haven't won a competition, so I don't know what you're talking about. So he'll be hurting. He wants this premiership as much as anyone in the NRL. And they'll be there again next year, though.
Oh, they'll be very much in the mixer. It is strange for Harry Grant, because I think we had him on as an interview, and then you're like, he's not won a premiership.
Yeah.
Like you just
because he was on loan. He was on loan 2020 at the West Tigers.
You just associate him with
winning,
with winning and winning premierships and competing.
And he's only 27. Like if they win those 2 premierships, if he's got 2 premierships by 27, like he'll get there.
Yeah,
he'll get there.
I think Melbourne. You asked about Brisbane in a window. Melbourne will feel like they're in a window, and they've had some magnificent games of football, like that win against the Golden Point win against the Panthers. Harry Grant with that audacious dummy and run. But it was interesting. Coach Bellamy after the game and like the sort of examination of defence. There was times this year for Melbourne, I think they knew it. It was almost too easy. Like, go back to that game against Para, round 1.
Yeah.
Like, you really shouldn't. It was a poison chalice. That round 1, you think, right, we've had a tough pre-season, going to have a tough hit out. And this isn't the reason why they lost, but like they would, it would have felt like a pre-season training room.
Yeah. And then they put 60, I think, on the Tigers at one point. One of their biggest issues over the last 2 years, which they can't seem to shake, is that 80-minute performance. They're constantly letting teams back in. Even if they win the games, they're just not... They haven't got that killer instinct that you expect from the Melbourne Storm.
You know what? You're right there, Charlie. And thinking back to the grand final, their line speed, their attention to detail, the nuances, the disguising, the ability to disguise a slow play the ball for the opposition, it was enormous in that first 40 minutes. But then I think listening to Coach Bellamy, he'll be pissed off around the Reece Walsh try. Like, it was brilliant from him, but he'll be filthy on some of those misses. And then they just couldn't repeat it in the second half. Yeah. And you wonder if, they didn't score a point in the second half. You'd wonder if they'll have some questions around that. And they have faded in second halves this year.
Yeah, and the reality is, if Tui Kamikamica scores that try, the Storm win the premiership. In all reality, if he gets that, pulls it in, because the Broncos, you could see then, the one thing about the Storm as well, when they get their tail up, they can just go bang, bang, bang and score points quickly. Yeah. And maybe if they get that try with Tui, which I reckon 9 times out of 10, Tui Kamikamica holds onto that ball. Like, Reece Walsh showed so much strength to hit him with enough force to knock that out of his hands. But if he had that time, like, that was the moment of the grand final. It's a 7-tackle set and the game changed, because the Storm coming out of half time, it seemed like they were on top again.
They were.
Yeah.
They were definitely on top. I think that is, look, Reece Walsh's double read on Katoa and Pappenhausen in the final exchanges clearly won them the game.
Yeah.
And obviously the brilliance in attack, but that Kamikamica no try was huge. What do the Storm do about that? I don't know. Talking to Rook, they've got the Storm now in review. They've got some issues they need to solve, and it's about personnel. So what do they do with a problem like Nelson, who is too tall? That's what it is. He's too tall, because where his shoulder is, he can't get low enough, and he can't tackle aggressively and be low enough. Almost, it puts him in a vulnerable position to be beaten defensively. So how do they manage that $800,000, $900,000 issue of Nelson Asafa Solomona? I don't know if there's if that can be coached out of him. I don't think you'd want to coach that out of him. Often refer to the fact of Coach Robinson with his thoughts on Jared Warrior-Hargraves and how he just loves that enforcer. He encourages it and embraces it from Spencer Leniu as well. I think he's missed 2 grand finals in a row, and a lot of people would make the claim that if he plays in one or both of them, it's a different story.
Yeah. I think they're pretty happy to punch his ticket, give him a cab charge and say, see you later, Nelson. If Nelson can get that deal at Rugby 360, which has been proposed.
That's not for another year. That's not for another year. So what happens then? They've still got him on their books for next year. So that...
But could they find a rugby deal for a year somewhere?
Maybe.
You know? I think they'd be pretty willing to chuck in money as well to get rid of him. Like I don't think they want him there anymore.
Okay, well then that's fine, but who are you going to bring in?
Well, Josh King and Stefano are fantastic.
Yeah,
Trent Liera is fantastic. Elias Katoa is fantastic.
Yeah.
Sean Blaw's a good player. Like their bench middles is probably the issue. So Tui Kamikamica is off contract. He was the only player in that grand final without a deal for next year.
Yeah.
But they've only got like 180 left in the cap, and Tui Kamikamica is on 500. So they've got to fill a bench middle spot with only $180,000.
Yeah. So
they can get rid of Nelson, then they maybe can
keep
go and get someone.
Or go and get get
someone.
who, because it's a hot market with Perth coming in.
Yeah.
And you know, all right, we're happy to see him go. Well, that's brilliant, and that's fine. But then, is it not best to have him there and just what you see is what you get, like the Roosters do with Spencer and Jared in the past. The other issue for them to solve is Jonah Pezzett, who cannot play reserve grade. He has to play. What do they do? Because he's a November 1 guy as well. He will be sought after. It almost, and he's got.
Well, he's technically a free agent now because
Jerome
Hughes he had a clause in his contract where as soon as Hughes re-signed, he became a free agent.
And I think Jonah Pezzett, he has options. You spoke before, Charlie, about no club going in for Toby Sexton. Clubs are going to move for Jonah Pezzett.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So when you compare, well, okay, if Toby Sexton was so good, you'd have clubs moving. Jonah Pezzett now is at the point where there's 3 to 4 clubs going, can we bring him in?
Yeah,
a guy that's been in reserve grade.
So
for the everyone's settled on their halves. Well, clearly some aren't.
Yeah,
clearly there's a quarter of the competition that aren't settled on their halves that are looking at Jonah Pezzett. For him now, and for Melbourne, it is that tricky dilemma of, well, what's going on with Cam and what's going on. Jerome Hughes obviously signed, but I'd be gobsmacked if they let Munster go to Perth. Like, why would you let him go? You'd be mad. I don't know if Pezzett and Hughes are too similar. Like, which one of those plays 5'8"?
And would Hughes have to be the one? Because Hughes is probably the most versatile.
Yeah.
He'd turn from a fullback into a halfbatt. He could probably turn from a halfback into a 5'8".
He'd have to. Yeah. I've seen, obviously limited.
Pezzett looks like a 7.
A
standard 7.
Yeah.
Like, no, I say standard. Like a quintessential 7 is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. It doesn't look like he could play 6.
No. Unbelievable kicking game.
Yeah. He looks like he likes to, like he's always talking, which is whether it's 6 or 7, doesn't really matter, but he seems like the organisational director.
Don't want to hang too much shit on the Bunnies, but they also rejected Jonah Pezzett on a loan deal. They offered him a 1 year loan deal and they turned that down. So there's a lot of mistakes happening at South Sydney with recruitment. Pezzett, I think that's what Melbourne will try and do. They'll try and let Pezzett go on loan for a year. So for this season coming, 2026, and then they'll know more about what Cam Munster wants to do. And so because 2026, there's a chance that Cam Munster, it's his last season. The thing, obviously, that will connect the two even further is Braithen Aston manages Jonah Pezzett and Cam Munster.
Yeah, I'd still be shocked to see Cam Munster go. And then Pezzett, why would you get a loan deal? Like,
well, just to play footy, mate.
To play footy, but then he's a free agent, so play footy on be the long-term half.
Yeah, but then I think he wants to play for Melbourne. Yeah, like who wouldn't want to play for Melbourne? But
it's great that you want to play for Melbourne. So do a lot of people. But maybe he needs to look at it and go, that ship is sailing.
Great for them. When we think about it, I mean, a drop ball and they win the competition.
Yeah, but given what they would see as a pass, and Coach Bellamy it was really cool to listen to him is that it takes a lot to get to a grand final, and it does. And you need the stars to align. And you even think about the Howarth injury, like how much that impacted them.
Yeah.
You know, Brisbane had their injury concerns as well, but Howarth went in the opening exchanges. So, but ultimately they would see it as a disappointment, especially after what happened last year at the end of that grand final, especially when you consider the side on paper. For the favourite not to win, it's got to be a B+.
Yeah. It's hard going back to, it's hard three-peating and winning competition. I imagine going three-peating grand final appearances is very hard to do as well. Like it's, you know, what they've got to find that motivation all over again, all the work they've put in.
And you know that, I guess, for the Melbourne Storm now and this team, the pressure from the Sydney media around their inability to get it done, that's going to come next final series.
Yeah,
you can already write it. You can already see it happening.
The chokers.
That's what it's going to be. Yeah. That's what's going to be said about them. I don't like that or agree with it, but that's what's going to come.
And they've
got
way. Lots of winners in that team. Yeah. Like lots of winners. Munster, Grant. Even though he hasn't won a competition, Australia, Queensland, he's shown so many clutch performances in big games. The final team, the Canberra Raiders. Now, the bye round's tip for the wooden spoon. We got it wrong. They obviously came first, but I really, I reckon they're going to have so much regret. 28-12 up in that week one finals. They had them on toast. They scored the try. The kickoff comes and it's floating down, and Tamale drops it, and the game just turns on a dime. This could have been so different. We could be sitting here talking about the Canberra Raiders as the premiers. I really think so.
And they know that.
Yeah.
They know that. That would have been a tough watch for the Canberra Raiders. That's the team. The team that wins are the team we had on toast, as you say. And even you look back at all those moments, like, and you think what Hosking, who's been amazing, enormous this year.
I know. Just doesn't hit the legs, and they win the game.
Like that ball, Smithies charges that ball down.
Yeah.
It's not going over.
It's not going over. That field goal is never going. It's not even going close.
No. And then Ben, like, the slight gust of wind that just tapped the ball to hit that part of the post and go over. You know, not
Jed
setting
Stewart's fingertips on the try that Jamal Fogarty scored.
Not setting up that field goal.
Yeah, Jamal Fogarty missing that conversion.
So many moments. But they'll look to focus on the positives, build off that, and try and forget how it finished. That's going to be the biggest issue, I think, for Ricky Stewart and his side, not to be the Broncos of 24 that were clearly scarred by their grand final loss. The Raiders couldn't seem to get over that in the immediate aftermath against the Sharks. The bit of soul searching there, the Raiders, and it's new ground, it's new territory. It was unexpected, but they're building something there. The hardest thing now for them will be emotionally getting over that exit and what could have been. Got to move fast. How they do that, incredibly difficult. It's an individual basis only. Even you think of Ethan Strange and the heartache that he would have, and the look. Yeah, going on a Kangaroos tour, great, but he's gonna have that with him about not playing, and he by all accounts he would have been detrimental to his side's performance. But try telling him that. Yeah. Like, he won't accept that from anybody. Like, even his coach, I imagine. That's what his coach will say. But whether he accepts it or not is a different thing. But Canberra Raiders, like Charlie, started the year with the old blow-up baseball bat, win in Vegas. And then they really did shock the rugby league world. A lot of people came after us for our predictions, but I do hope that they backed the Raiders to get the minor premiership, because that would be the ultimate insult to say, look, I knew they were going to do this. Yeah. I don't think many people would have, though. Well, they've got the chance to back them and get good odds again, because they're $19 to win the premiership in 2026. So Ladbrokes obviously think that they're going to have they're going to have some scars from that loss for this year. And also Jamal Fogarty's leaving. Josh Papali'i, he was able to squeeze the lemon and find the form that's made him one of the best front rowers in the NRL era. And he obviously played Origin. Can he find that form again? That would be a question. I think in Joey Tarpany and Hudson Young, they've got some of the best forwards in the comp there.
Yeah. KO Weeks, Ethan Strange.
Yeah,
Great. Two of the best young spine players in the game.
Strange was, and then I think Starling doesn't get enough credit. I think Brayley got dummy half of the year. Starling, the opening 10, 12 weeks, he was the best dummy half by light years.
Yeah. And then, mate, they're still stacked, basically.
Yeah,
I think $19 is offensive, and I would be getting on that if I was a Canberra Raiders fan. That is for sure.
Yeah, me too.
Do you outside of regret though, like so many positives?
Oh, so many positives. Like a changing of the guard with Whitehead and Rapiner exiting. They found a new identity. Ricky Stewart just needs to keep tapping into that. It's been incredible to watch the Raiders rise and grow. I think they will miss Jamal, and they maybe won't realise just what he brings to the football side until he's gone. I think we maybe see that next year, depending on who they can bring in at the halfback. I think his kicking game and that steady head amongst those younger outside backs, because 1 to 6, all very young, and then 7 to 13, the elder statesman. He's the only one in the outside backs the backs that it is an older statesman. So it'd be interesting to see how that group dynamic works without that, because a lot of the time the forwards and backs split off, and who's going to step into the shoes of Jamal Fogarty and that experienced head. But the Raiders, you can't deny an A year.
Definitely. They've got great players. Tamale as well. Jed Stewart, was great to see him coming to first grade. Xavier Savage, obviously injured during finals. Matt Tomoko seems like a great player as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Sebastian Chris was fantastic. I mean, really, 1 to 17, everyone can hold their head up, can't they?
Absolutely, they can, yeah. And then we'll see probably a bit more from Matty Nicholson next year. He showed some great glimpses of what he's capable of. But yeah, I guess finally now it's time to review you.
Have you got some dirt on me, do you?
No. I'm not going to give you an A to E. I'm going to give you 5 stars.
5 stars. 5. Yeah, I was going to give you the same, mate. 5 stars as well.
The rugby league journalistic race,
that was good, wasn't it?
All brought to you by Charlie White.
That's right. Yeah.
The buy round, or I get a bit of credit for that. It's brilliant, Jimmy. The buy round, you race. It's like, no, it's you, Charlie White.
Yeah. All you had to do was win for us, mate. All you had to do was win the race for the buy round name, but probably my fault for handicapping you so poorly as well.
Yeah, well, and then I don't know what those, I don't know what you injected me with, but it seemed to slow. It seemed to slow me down rather than speed me up. So
do you know what, muscles sometimes do that? Sometimes it's better to be slender and just sprint out the back.
You reckon I was too heavy?
Heavy, too much muscles, too much juice.
Okay, well, let's re-examine the scientific process. And let's win that media race next year. Charlie, it's been a fantastic year for us. We're not over.
We're not over. The round table's still rolling through. We've got obviously all the international footy, plenty of content, some great interviews to come. Round table, it's great content. If you love your rugby league, you should be watching the round table, so enjoy that.
Yeah.
And I think there's only a couple of jerseys left.
Yes, get after it.
Depends what time this is recording. They might all be gone by now, so apologies if they are.
All right, thanks for listening, everyone.